All right, hey, what's going on, everyone? Sam here from Lake Pro Tackle. Guys, we are coming up on the early pre-spawn time of the year. So it's almost February, water temps are gonna start rising again, water clarity might get a little bit dingier here and there depending on where you are. We're gonna have some spring rain, water levels might be coming up for y'all. And we're gonna talk about one of my favorite techniques during this time of the year, and that's gonna be throwing a lipless crankbait. Now we're gonna take it one step farther. We're gonna talk about a specific color that a lot of people just do not throw. Everyone throws your typical Delta Reds, your chili craws, your very dark red crawfish style presentations. However, those aren't quite the ones that you wanna throw. You're gonna, it's a little known secret in the fishing community that there's a specific color that you want to throw in the early pre-spawn time of the year where you can get some massive fish as well as lots of numbers. You get to cover a lot of water with the lipless crankbait. You can go down the bank on like 8 on your trolling motor, cover a ton of water. This specific color here, we're gonna talk about it. Each company that we're gonna talk about here has this color just in a different name. So this one here, we're gonna start out with my all-time favorite, and we're not gonna go in any like price order. This first one here is gonna be the Strike King Red Eye Shad, not the 2-tap version. We're gonna talk about the 2-tap version, and we're gonna talk about each of these individually, how I like to fish them, whether it's going down the bank, fishing them specifically on structure and stuff like that. But this color here, we're gonna start with the color. This one here, this is called Fire Craw in the Strike King series. Now what's so special about this and why a lot of people don't get a lot of bites on their chili craws, their Delta Reds in the early pre-spawn time of the year is because you've got to match the hatch a lot better. Crawfish, what they do is they hibernate. They're gonna go burrow in trees, mud, rocks, whole bunch of other stuff. They're gonna go tuck down and just sleep through the winter basically. And water temps start to rise, those crawfish are gonna start to come out of their hibernation. They're gonna start to move around, they're gonna start molting. And their first molt right here, this is gonna be the most accurate representation of that. They're gonna be a whole lot lighter orange, a whole lot lighter tones. When you eat crawfish normally, and they turn like that deep red color after you boil them, before you boil them, guys, they're gonna be a very dark red, especially later in the year, near March, April, and June. So that's when the best time to eat crawfish are, especially when they get really big after feeding up. But these guys here, this is gonna be what they look like after their first molt from coming out from all that mud and yuckiness from hibernation here. So this one has a whole lot of really bright red, deep orange, almost blood orange type color. Not quite dark blood orange, but you can see here it's a very reminiscent of basically an orange red. And the 2-tap version is the same thing. We've got a Jackall TN70, which is the exact same color basically, little less black in it from the crawfish pattern. This one here, the Booyah One Knocker, sorry, just the Booyah Hard Knock is gonna be very similar to that as well. Instead of the black patterns, craw patterns, it's gonna have gold patterns. I don't think it matters too much. When you mix in this much color, the fish don't seem to care that much. So we're gonna talk about, we talked about the color, we're gonna talk about presentation, where to fish these. Typically what happens, if you're on lakes with grass, you might not have a lot of grass overall, but there are gonna be some areas where vegetation does start to arise on the bottom, 5 to 8 foot of water. We're gonna say 5 to 8 foot of water. That's where that sun penetrates down and you're gonna have a very small window. It's basically a small window of opportunity for that grass or vegetation to grow. And that's what those fish are gonna key in on. And you're gonna notice as you go through pre-spawn that those fish are gonna use those areas in that 5 to 8 foot of water, and they're really gonna stage up. Now, early pre-spawn, guys, this color shines. You're gonna be focusing on mainly that 5 to 8, maybe 6, 7, 8 foot of water, and these can absolutely smash the fish, guys. You can have just an incredible day, best day on the water with these here. Now, the reason why I'm focusing on there again is grass beds, they'll typically pop up somewhere in that depth range. And those fish just habitually, you know, through the years will set up in that exact same area, whether or not you do have those grass beds. So what happens is they're gonna set up on the bottom, and you know, a lipless crankbait is great for getting suspended fish. It's great for getting fish that are actively feeding. It's a little known thing that you can throw this, you know, those fish hear it, they can see it, they can, you know, maybe not smell it, but you know, they've got a bunch of different senses that can locate this bait. And when they are locked on the bottom, typically like they are cruising along the bottom, getting their attention with this bait, which is why I think the lipless crankbait is so special, you can get their attention with it. And that's all you need to do in that pre-spawn time. As long as they can hear it, they can see it, which is why that color is a big deal. Again, in that water clarity, you can have just crazy, crazy days out there. So the first bait we're just gonna talk about, again, my standard one, is gonna be the Strike King Red Eye Shad. This one here, I find I can fish it in any area of the water I want. I can fish it 2 foot below the surface. I can fish it slower, different line sizes. I can fish it down into that 8-foot range, depending on how those fish are setting up, depending on the day. Typically, if it's a high sky, you know, bluebird skies, they're gonna be locked on the bottom, like locked on the bottom. And I'm gonna go down to like a 12-pound line. My rod's gonna be basically the same throughout. It's gonna be a 7'2" to 7'5", medium to medium heavy, something along the lines of a crankbait action rod. So it's got to have enough bend in it. It's got to be long enough to throw this long distances, but you want to have enough backbone to where you can set the hook. So one that I picked out here that I want to highlight is this Fate Black by 13 Fishing, guys. This is a 7'3" cranking rod. And this is an amazing, amazing lipless crankbait rod because it has enough backbone. You see this tip here. It's a good amount of flex, but this backbone, once you get down to the first, second, and third guide to the reel seat, you can see it stiffens up quite a bit. So you're able to drive those hooks into those fish's mouth. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guides, 10 guides plus the tip. And they're smaller guides too. They're not big round guides. So you're gonna have an amazing feel on the line as you're reeling these crankbaits in. You know, you can give them pops here and there with the rod tip. You know, you're reeling, you pop it, make them react. A lot of the times these fish will chase for super, super long distances to come inspect your bait, come eat it. Whatever it is, that little bit of twitch in there can also get you a bite that you might not have gotten. So back on this guy here. So again, this is probably the 3rd time I've gone off about something else, and now we're going back to this one. We're gonna finish it out. Finish out the talk about this red eye shad here. I can fish it in any depth of the water. Typically, I'm gonna change the hooks out. The stock hooks on here, I'm gonna be honest, not that great. Go pick you up some Gamakatsus. Size 6s tend to be that right medium, short shank guys. The hookup ratio is a whole lot better. The hooks are thinner gauge, so you don't have to set the hook as hard. And these stock hooks, they dole out pretty easy. Again, I just get so many bites on this single crankbait here. The Red Eye Shad by Strike King is just a staple in my arsenal any time of the year, really, but especially during this early pre-spawn time of the year. That color right there, that fire crawl, just straight up gets bit. And I mean, fire crawl in general, a lot of people will throw it, just not in this lipless color, because a lot of companies have it. A lot of people just don't throw it for whatever reason. You know, you've got your jackhammers, you've got different bladed jigs. With this fire crawl pattern, a lot of people don't translate it into the crankbait. You can cover a lot of water with these lipless crankbaits. Next up is this Booyah Hard Knocker. This Hard Knocker here isn't a one knocker. It's got a bunch of little rattles in there. So typically when I'm fishing this one, it's gonna be on a lot lighter line. 10 to 12 pound line, basically the same rod, but I'm gonna have a 6 to 7 speed gear ratio reel. I like to reel these a lot slower. I think having all those rattles go super, super crazy. They're a lot smaller rattles too. It doesn't really put off a vibe. It puts off a weird vibe for me, is how I'm gonna describe it. Typically, when the water's warmer, the shad are going crazy, you want a shad pattern in this with all these rattles, because that's what shad sound like. This one here, I'm gonna fish it a lot slower, so it's gonna do that. You know, you can, it sounds a lot less aggressive is basically what I'm trying to get at. But this one here, fish it a lot slower, fish it more near the bottom. And this one too is a great one to yo-yo. When you yo-yo this bait here, this Booyah, what happens is it's an amazing bait to yo-yo. The way the head's designed, the way the whole body's designed is great to rip it straight up. It's almost like a seamless like bait where it's meant to be yo-yoed off the bottom. So definitely check that one out. Next up, we're gonna talk about the just standard red eye shad's little brother, or I guess the newest one in that family. This is the red eye shad 2-tap tungsten. This 2-tap tungsten here, it's a little bit different than the original one. So with the original one, you've got a lot more BBs in it. There's less air in the chamber in that bait. So with this one, there's 2 tungsten BBs in here. Puts off a very, very dense sounding noise. However, there's a lot more air in it, which makes it a little more buoyant. So if I'm fishing this one, I'm gonna be fishing it on 12-pound line typically. Sometimes I will go up to 15 if I'm really just slow rolling it, let it just tick through that strike zone area. But this one here, same rod really. It comes with a little bit better hooks than the other one. Again, I'm still gonna change those out to either Owners or Gamakatsus. But that one there, that 2-tap, is really good for dirtier water. That 2-tap tungsten is gonna put out a deeper pitch. Those fish can feel it a whole lot better and they can hear it a whole lot better. On the opposite end of the spectrum there, we're gonna move to this one here. The last one of this video is gonna be the Jackall TN70. You've heard me talk about this bait in other previous videos if you were keeping up with the channel here, but this TN70 all year round is a great bait to get bit on, not only in this craw pattern. So this one here, this is just crawfish. In their name, basically, in the Jackall's names, this is just crawfish. They've got a darker craw as well, which I will bring out later, maybe post-spawn. But this one here is 5/8 of an ounce. So it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit heavier than all the other ones we talked about. This one puts off an amazing amount of noise. It has, I'd say, anywhere from 6 to 7 BBs in there. A very, very deep pitch as well. Not quite as deep as that 2-tap. However, this one is easy to fish. Easy to fish. Any depth range, just like that Strike King. So if you want to try out this one, this is the other one that I would recommend that, that you start with, whether it be these two here, the original red eye shad or the TN70. If you want to drop the extra $8 on this one, highly recommend it, because I feel like the amount of BBs in it actually accentuates how well it works, because they're not that little tiny BBs in there. It's enough to keep those fish interested. It doesn't make them shy away from it. So this one here works just like that Strike King red eye shad, guys. Everything's basically the same about it, which is why I love it so much. I just hate when I lose them. Straight out of that package, the hooks are great, hardware's great, the split ring's super amazing. You can do exactly what I do with the Booyah one there, where you let it go down the bottom, rip it up. Even if there's not grass there, those fish will still react to it. Other cranking rods that we might have, we've got a couple Veritas PLX moderate rods that are super amazing. Got some X Prides. Again, you want to keep your rods in that 7'2" to 7'5" range. Medium heavy, depending on what you're fishing. You know, if you do have a lot of grass, typically I will switch out my hooks to, again, those Gamakatsus or Owners, a lot thinner wire hooks to be able to rip out through that grass a whole lot easier. If you're like me, you fish the Metroplex or fish areas that don't have grass, these baits will still shine, get them a little bit closer to the bottom, just because crawfish, you know, they're not swimming up in the water column. So keep them closer to the bottom, downsize your line. Lipless crankbaits to me are one of the most versatile ways to fish, because you can throw them in so many different applications. And I hope you guys learned something about this color here. You know, one of the biggest things I've learned here at Lake Pro Tackle, talking to some of the ponking biologists, is that everything, again, it all relies on the food the fish eat. And you know, this early pre-spawn time, these craws are gonna be this exact color here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep up with our social media, Lake Pro Tackle on Instagram and Facebook. We love seeing all the interactions. Guys, shoot us messages if you have anything. Leave comments down below if you have a video idea we should do next. Maybe you've got some general questions. I'd love to hear them. Tim would love to hear them. You know, I'm over in that comment section all the time. So guys, just let us know what we can do for y'all. If you want to order stuff, guys, free shipping over $50, rods, reels, and tackle. If you need something, give us a call. You know, we've got a whole bunch of stuff here. Go over to the website, lakeprotackle.com. Check it all out for yourself. Thanks for watching again, guys. We'll see you next time.